The diplomatic chamber aboard the convergence station held representatives from 17 species, but every eye was on the small creature currently attached to Alara Quinn's sleeve. Threx, barely 3 cycles old, had escaped his containment field again. The Kresh cub, no larger than a Terran house cat but infinitely deadlier, hung by his needle-sharp teeth from the fabric of Alara's uniform jacket, his 6 legs flailing in the air as his bioluminescent stripes pulsed in angry crimson. The room didn't just go quiet, it went tomb silent. Ambassador Vokhtar of the Kresh delegation rose so quickly his chair clattered backwards. His crest flared in alarm, the defensive spines along his spine standing rigid. "Step away from the juvenile," he barked, his translator rendering his words with appropriate urgency. "Do not move, human. Security protocols." Alara Quinn looked down at the growling bundle of fury dangling from her arm, then back up at the assembled diplomats, and smiled. Then she tugged. Not hard, not violently, just a gentle, playful pull backward that made Threx's eyes widen in surprise, his growl hitching mid-vibrato. "Oh, no you don't, little guy," Alara said, her voice warm with amusement. She tugged again, this time adding a slight twist that made the cub's grip slip. "That's my favorite jacket." The Kresh security detail was already moving, but they froze mid-step as Threx released his bite and lunged for Alara's hand instead. Every species in the room recognized a predatory strike when they saw one. The Kresh were apex hunters on their homeworld, evolved to take down prey 3 times their adult size. Their young were born with fully developed hunting instincts, their bites strong enough to puncture industrial alloys, their claws capable of shredding Kevlar-equivalent materials. Threx's jaws opened wide, his fangs glinting under the station's artificial lighting as he aimed for the soft flesh of Ilara's palm. She caught him, not with a trap or a shield or any of the 17 different containment methods the other species would have employed. She just caught him. Her hands closed around his midsection, fingers finding purchase between his chitinous plates and the softer tissue beneath, and she lifted him up to eye level. Threx writhed, his claws scrabbling for purchase, his tail whipping dangerously. A single swipe from that tail could disembowel most species in the room. Alara held him at arm's length and looked him straight in his 4 amber eyes. "Are we done?" the cub hissed, a sound like steam escaping a broken valve. "I'll take that as a maybe," Alara said. Then she did something that made Ambassador Vokhtar's blood run cold. She pulled Threx closer and began to scratch behind his auditory ridge. "Human Quinn, cease immediately!" Vokhtar's voice cracked with genuine fear now. "You're triggering his hunting reflex. The tactile stimulation near his sensory organs will cause—" Threx's hiss dissolved into a rumbling purr. The sound was so unexpected that the translator AI paused, running diagnostic checks to ensure it was functioning properly. Kresh cubs didn't purr. They didn't even have the biological mechanism for purring. The sound they made when content was more of a low-frequency chirp, barely audible. This was definitely a purr. Threx's 6 legs went limp, dangling in the air as Alara continued scratching. His tail, moments ago a whip-like weapon, now curled contentedly around her wrist. His bioluminescent stripes shifted from angry red to a soft, pulsing blue. "There we go," Alara murmured, adjusting her grip so Threx was cradled against her chest like an earth infant. "You're not scary. You're just overstimulated, aren't you? Too many people. Too much noise." She turned to Ambassador Vokhtar, still holding the now docile cub. "I apologize for the disruption, Ambassador. Should I return him to his quarters?" Vokhtar stared. His translator managed to render his stunned silence as, "How? How what?" Alara asked, genuinely confused. "How are you not bleeding? How is your arm still attached?" "How is he?" Vokhtar gestured helplessly at his species' most dangerous juvenile, now nuzzling against Alara's collarbone. "Doing that?" Alara looked down at Threx, then back at the ambassador. Understanding dawned in her eyes, followed by something that might have been pity. "You don't hold them, do you?" The chamber erupted in confused chatter. The Zenthari delegate's translator couldn't keep up with the rapid-fire questions from their colleagues. Even the usually stoic hive mind observer emitted a pulse of shocked inquiry. Ilara raised her free hand for quiet. I'm sorry, I should clarify. On Earth we have animals. Predators, actually. Very similar to your young in size and temperament. We call them kittens, or puppies, or cubs, depending on the species. She adjusted Threx slightly, supporting his weight better. They bite. They scratch. They're aggressive and territorial and absolutely convinced they're apex predators. They are apex predators, Volktar said stiffly. Sure, Alara agreed easily, but they're also babies. And babies, human babies included, need physical contact, touch, reassurance. They need to learn boundaries through interaction, not isolation. She held Threx up slightly, showing the assembled delegates how her fingers avoided his spines, how her grip was firm but not constraining, how she kept her vulnerable areas away from his claws while still maintaining contact. You raise them in containment fields because you're afraid they'll hurt you. But touch is how young predators learn to modulate their strength. Without it, they never develop impulse control. Vokhtar's crest slowly lowered. Our juveniles have killed handlers. Adult handlers trained in containment protocols. Because your handlers treated them like weapons instead of children, Alara said gently. She scratched under Threx's chin, eliciting another purr. Humans have been domesticating predators for thousands of years. We live with creatures that could easily kill us if they chose. We sleep next to them. Let them near our own young, because we understand something fundamental. She looked around the room, making eye contact with each delegate in turn. Aggression without context is just fear, and fear can be soothed. Threx chose that moment to yawn, displaying all 36 of his razor-sharp teeth, before tucking his head against Alara's shoulder and falling asleep. The silence that followed was different from before, not shocked or afraid, but contemplative. Finally, the Zenthari delegate spoke, their crystalline voice chiming softly. Your species is either remarkably brave or remarkably foolish, Human Quinn. Ilara smiled, one hand gently stroking Threx's back as he slept. On Earth, we have a saying, fortune favors the bold. But honestly, she looked down at the sleeping cub, his bioluminescent stripes now a peaceful aquamarine. I think it's simpler than that. We just believe that anything capable of love is worth the risk of getting bitten. Ambassador Vokhtar sat back down slowly, his eyes never leaving his species' most dangerous juvenile, now sleeping peacefully in a human's arms. Your species, he said quietly, is absolutely insane. Ilara's smile widened. Yeah, we get that a lot. As the diplomatic proceedings resumed, with Threx still snoozing against Ilara's chest, word began spreading through the convergence station. By evening, 17 different species would file reports about the human who treated a predator cub like a pet. By morning, the galactic community would begin questioning everything they thought they knew about threat assessment and fear responses. But in that moment, in that chamber, Alara Quinn just held a sleeping baby and wondered what all the fuss was about. After all, he'd only bitten her sleeve.